Another huge update has hit Limbus Company, adding a new identity, a new ego, and a brand new refraction railway for you all to dump hundreds of hours into. And while all the content in the update is extremely interesting and fun, today we'll look at only one man, who has decided to join the forgotten forces of Burn, Liu Yi Sang. This identity promises to dethrone Liu Yi Sang from his place in the Burn team, while also filling the roles of yet another good clasher and Burn inflictor, as well as a much needed SP support for the team's extremely SP hungry carry. But of course, the question remains, is he worth using over his handsome and extremely versatile ring counterpart? In today's video, I want to answer that question by taking a look at Liu Yi Sang's kit, while also talking about whether his addition to the Burn team will finally propel the squad into relevancy or not. However, before we start, you know I have to tell you that most of my viewers are not subscribed. So if you find yourself coming back to my videos or end up enjoying this one, consider subscribing. It takes just 1 second and helps me out a lot. Without further ado, let's get back to Liu Yi Sang. To figure out how good the Liu Yi Sang is, I want to first take a look at his skills and passives, and then I want to compare his performance in Burn to that of Liu Yi Sang, as well as other identities. We'll start with his kit. All of Liu Yi Sang's skills deal slash damage, setting him apart from the rest of the Liu IDs. His infinities are Sloth, Wrath and Envy, making him our second sloth-generating 3-star Burn identity after LCE Faust. Yi Sang's first skill is Flame Heal, which reaches 15 power and deals up to 30% extra damage with its conditionals up. The coins of the skill inflict a total of 4 burn over 4 inflictions, although you have to hit heads to get the full value. His second skill is Frontal Assault. Its coinage is the exact same as on Ishmael and Rodia's second skills, and it reaches 22 power with max conditionals. On top of clashing well, the skill also inflicts 4 burn with its first and second coin, while the third one deals bonus damage for burn on target, and at 6 plus burn inflicts +2 burn count as well. Liu Yi Sang's third and strongest skill is Flow of the Sword, which has 4 coins and reaches 24 power. Much like the first skill, it gains bonus damage for burn on target, up to 30%, and after attack, one other ally with the least SP recovers 15 SP. On kill with Flow of the Sword, or if the target has 10 plus burn, Yi Sang heals one more ally. The first 3 coins once again inflict a total of 4 burn, while the fourth coin deals extra damage based on burn on target, and also gets the same effect as Rodion's Pinpoint Blitz, which deals rest damage equal to the enemy's burn potency, with a cap of 30, at the cost of reducing their count by 2. Yi Sang's defensive skill is Flame Counter, which, as you might have guessed, is a counter. The interesting thing about the skill is the fact that it also acts as a guard, providing Yi Sang with shield equal to the attacker's burn, capping out at 15. The skill also gets a damage conditional, which is, once again, based on the enemy's burn. The coins of the skill inflict up to 4 burn. Notice a pattern here? Yeah, me too. Although to get the bonus burn on both coins, Yi Sang will have to still have his shield up when countering, which is easier said than done, as it's only possible if he takes less than 15 damage from an oncoming attack. As for Yi Sang's passives, he only gets 1, which is a nice break from all the 2+ passive identities we have been getting recently. Inner Ardor requires 4 res owned to activate, and at turn end it heals one ally with the least SP by 5 plus the highest resonance SP, capping out at 10. That healing is further increased for burn IDs, as it heals them for 5 more SP. At 4 plus res resonance, the healing targets one additional ally. Pretty simple, but very strong, especially in burn. His support passive does something very similar. healing 5 SP at turn end for 2 allies that have lost SP this turn, with the healing increased to 5 to 10 for burn inflicting identities. And that's his kit. The first thing I want to bring up is why does this guy have 4 skills that inflict 4 burn each? What is he, Jin from League of Legends? Why does he get such poetic symmetry? If anything, this should be the gimmick of the She Association, not Liu. Cause, you know, She means 4 and also death, and it would make sense for that association. But who am I kidding, we're never getting another She identity, so this is the best we've got. What was I talking about? Oh right, Liu Yi Sang's viability. Right off the bat, Liu Yi Sang is a strong identity. His kit is very similar to those of other Liu 3 stars, but he's just better at some things. His first skill inflicts more burn, his second skill gets a strong damage conditional, and his third skill gets a double coin power conditional while also having 2 separate damage bonuses. And on top of all that, it gets bonus wrath damage and SP recovery, making it by far the best Liu skill tree. However, the more attentive people among my viewers can point out one thing. I am praising Yi Sang's damage conditionals on skills, but the other Liu identities don't have them not because they're just weak and old, but instead because they have bonus damage in their passives. But even with that in mind, after using Liu Yi Sang at least once, you will see that he still greatly outperforms his peers in terms of damage dealing. I found this to be mostly caused by the fact that both Ishmael and Rodion rely on Wrath Resonance for their damage. And while it's true that there's a lot of Wrath in the Burn team, keeping up a steady flow of triple resonance is not exactly easy, considering that you usually want to play around getting max resonance for Don Sinclair's Blazing Strike, as it's a powerful skill that gets much stronger when there's a lot of Wrath around it. Combine that with the fact that the strongest skills of the Liu identities don't even have Wrath affinity, and thus will not be used for the big chains, limiting the damage potential of Rodia and Ishmael even further, and Yi Sang being better at dealing damage becomes pretty obvious. However, the Liu identities aren't necessarily used for their damage. Even though Ishmael only has a damage conditional on her skill 3 and only gets damage from her passive, she's still used primarily as a powerful burn inflictor, as the high coin count on her skills synergizes well with the passive of her Ardor Blossom Star Ego. On the other hand, Rodia mainly prides herself on inflicting a bunch of burn count, as well as providing additional offensive buffs in those long Wrath Resonance chains, meaning that Yi Sang is in fact a more offense-oriented Liu identity and not just blatant power creep. The one thing I've been neglecting in this little comparison is Yi Sang's passive. I didn't mention it because it fills a very peculiar niche for the Burn team that has nothing to do with the other Liu identities. If you aren't aware of why Inner Ardor is such a big deal for the Burn team, let me introduce you to this little guy, Don Office Sinclair. Without getting too deep into the details, this identity is Burn's main carry, as Sinclair gets a bunch of power, a multi-target skill 2 and a nuke skill 3, much like Manager Don and Wild Hunt Heathcliff. However, as a counterweight to that, Sinclair rapidly loses SP while in his ego state, and loses the form completely when hitting 0 SP. So if you want to make sure he stays at his full power for longer, you want to give him a bunch of SP recovery. Before LCE Faust, Encore Faust could be used for her support passive, which allowed you to heal 15 SP on Sinclair every time you got a triple Last Resonance. But after LCE Faust was released, many players devoted to Don Sinclair turned to Rin Yi Sang support, who could be used to allow Sinclair to consistently heal a bit of SP when hitting enemies. And now that Yi Sang has gotten himself a brand new Burn identity, you are incentivized to drop Rin Yi Sang for his Liu variant. And if Yi Sang didn't have any SP recovery, this would be a big problem for Sinclair, but luckily Liu Yi Sang has exactly that. His healing is great, providing a steady flow of at least 10 SP per turn, and with his third skill's after attack effect added into the mix, he can greatly help out the struggling carry by slowing down his sanity loss drastically. And now that I've mentioned Liu Yi Sang, let's get to the big question. Is Liu Sang better than Liu Yi Sang? And honestly, after hearing me glaze the new ID for so long, I think you know the answer. But first, why was Liu Yi Sang used in the Burn team in the first place? Well, it's mostly because of a lack of strong identities for this team. With very few releases helping Burn in 2024, the team fell behind majorly in terms of strong 3-star identities, and we were left with an incomplete squad that used the same core 4 identities, but had 2 empty slots. Usually, you would slot in Liu Roshu as your 5th ID, but your options for slot 6 were kind of unappealing. All the designated Burn IDs that were left were Season 1 2-stars, none of whom have any kind of offensive power. Sure, they're good at inflicting burn, but what's the point in mega fueling the weakest status effect? So instead of going for a burn ID, players chose Liu Yi Sang, who not only acts as a very versatile option due to his ability to inflict any status effect, but also synergizes well with the stickiness of the burn and dark flame effects, which allow him to increase the chance of getting his skill 2 rerolls by quite a lot. With Roshu on the field, Liu Yi Sang also had access to Force Match Flame, which is not only an ego skill that inflicts a bunch of burn on multiple enemies, but also a way for a Yi Sang identity with no rest skills to help make big wrath chains that buff Blazing Strike. But with LCE Faust breaking up the Roshu Yi Sang combo, Ring was effectively demoted to being just an identity that can use burn to inflict good damage. And of course, as I've said a little bit earlier, Liu Yi Sang is an offense-oriented Liu identity, meaning he has come into the Burn team to entirely take away the niche of Liu Yi Sang away from him, while also adding more burn infliction and much needed SP recovery into the team. With all of that in mind, I believe Liu Association South Section 3 fixer Yi Sang is the perfect replacement for the beloved Ring identity in the Burn team, helping elevate the team's efficiency by patching up some notable weaknesses that Burn has been plagued by for a year now. In my LCE Faust video, I said that Burn really needed either a powerful AoE inflictor or another carry that converts Burn into damage to be good. But it seems like just a bit of SP healing and good stats can also elevate the team quite well. Though I guess you can say that the new Yi Sang is kind of the damage dealer identity I was talking about. However, all of these thoughts are just my opinions, that I formed after using the new identity for a limited amount of time. So if you have your own opinions on the new ID and how it has shaken up the burn meta, you are more than welcome to leave them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video at any point, leave a like to let me know, and consider subscribing to not miss out on my new uploads. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye!